Today, we're taking a journey from New Westminster to Powell River along the Sunshine Coast Highway, a road trip that's part highway, part ocean crossing, and all of West Coast beauty. Along the way, we'll pass through small towns, scenic ferries, and some places you might recognize from film and television. Buckle up, this drive's got history, scenery, and a little Hollywood magic. We begin our journey right here on Quayside Drive, along the scenic Fraser River waterfront. This area blends residential charm with historic roots, like the old Paddle Wheeler pub, a nod to the steam wheelers that once sailed these waters. Heading west, we turn left onto Stewardson Way, moving through an industrial stretch where the echoes of the river's logging and shipping paths still linger just beyond the warehouses and the rail lines. To our left runs the SkyTrain's original Expo line, the very first rapid transit route connecting New Westminster with downtown Vancouver, gliding quietly above as a modern contrast to this area's rich industrial heritage. Now we enter Burnaby and join Marine Drive, a bustling commercial corridor stretching for several kilometers. This busy thoroughfare is lined with everything from big box stores and car dealerships to cozy local eateries and service shops, making it a hub for both shopping and everyday errand. Its mix of familiar urban streetscapes and diverse businesses have caught the eye of many film crews. Shows like Supernatural and The X-Files have captured scenes from these very streets, using the area's authentic, lived-in look to bring their stories to life. Approaching Boundary Road, which marks the dividing line between Burnaby and Vancouver. As we turn onto the south end of Boundary Road, the road climbs a noticeable hill with a steep grade of about 6%, providing a brief uphill push before leveling out as it continues north along the border between these two vibrant cities. On our right is Central Park, a vast 90-hectare urban forest and one of Burnaby's crown jewels. This green oasis offers a peaceful retreat from city life with miles of winding, hiking, and biking trails that weave through towering Douglas firs and cedar trees. You'll find a charming pitch and putt golf course, a public swimming pool perfect for summer dips, and a tranquil lake where locals often enjoy picnics, paddle boating, or simply soaking in nature's calm. Whether it's a morning jog or a weekend family outing, Central Park provides a refreshing slice of wilderness right next door to the urban bustle. On the northeast corner of Kingsway and Boundary in Burnaby, you'll spot the quirky BC Tel boot building. Shaped like a giant work boot, this unique landmark once housed BC Tel's fleet services and remains one of Metro Vancouver's most memorable roadside sites. We merge onto Highway 1 westbound, the Trans-Canada Highway, one of the busiest routes connecting the city's eastern suburbs with Vancouver and the North Shore. As we emerge onto the highway, notice the buildings to the right. These are studio sets where countless movies and TV shows have been filmed, making this area a major hub for Vancouver's thriving film industry. As we continue on Highway 1 westbound, just ahead, the Hastings Street Tunnel was built to help traffic flow smoothly beneath the busy intersection of Hastings and Highway 1, easing congestion on this critical corridor. Ahead is the Ironworkers Memorial Bridge, spanning the second narrows of the Burrard Inlet. It's not just a vital connection, but a solemn tribute to the 19 workers who lost their lives here in a tragic 1958 construction collapse. The disaster is one of British Columbia's darkest industrial accidents and is remembered every day as we cross this bridge. Film crews often use this dramatic backdrop. The Flash and the Deadpool 2 both feature quick shots of this iconic structure, and then supernatural under the south end of the bridge we've used for the Men of Letters hideaway. On the North Shore side, the highway winds through a mix of urban neighborhoods and lush forests. Movies like Final Destination 2 and TV shows like Arrow have filmed in these parts, taking advantage of dramatic mix of city and nature. As we continue west, the dense city streets gradually give way to sweeping ocean views and towering evergreens that frame the highway like a natural cathedral. This stretch of road offers some of the most breathtaking scenery in the region, where rugged mountains meet the sparkling water of the Pacific. It's no surprise this section is a favorite for car commercials and film shots alike, showcasing the dramatic contrast of urban infrastructure nestled within wild, untouched landscape. Perfect for that quintessential West Coast vibe. Descending towards Horseshoe Bay, we enter a picturesque coastal village nestled against the towering North Shore Mountains, known for its charming marina and waterfront views. Horseshoe Bay serves as a busy gateway to Vancouver Island, the Sunshine Coast, and Bowen Island via its bustling ferry terminal. This scenic spot has attracted filmmakers for years. It appeared in TV shows like Once Upon a Time and the Canadian drama Gold Squad. Just up the Sea to Sky Highway, you'll find the iconic Claw restaurant featured as a filming location in the TV series Nancy Drew. Horseshoe Bay is also famously the starting point of the breathtaking Sea to Sky Highway, a route that winds north through coastal forests and rugged mountains all the way to Whistler and beyond. We're now loading on to the Langdale ferry, and it looks like we're among the last few cars lucky enough to squeeze onto this sailing. It's always a bit of a race against the clock to get on board, especially during busy times. But securing that final spot means we're all set for a smooth and relaxing ride across the stunning waters of Howe Sound. The ferry crew is expertly guiding vehicles on board, making sure everyone fits safely and efficiently. As we settle in for the crossing, we're already looking forward to our next stop. Breakfast at the famous Molly's Reach in Gibsons, known for its cozy atmosphere and delicious food. Molly's Reach has been a beloved spot for locals and visitors alike, and it even gained fame from the classic Canadian TV show The Beachcombers. So as the ferry gently cuts through the water, we're excited for what's ahead. Great food, beautiful views, and another memorable day on the Sunshine Coast. Rolling off the ferry at Langdale, we officially begin our drive on the Sunshine Coast. There's always something special about that moment, leaving the ship behind and hitting the road. For many visitors, this is their first real taste of the coast. And while the modern bypass highway runs straight towards Sechelt, we're going to take a detour along the original stretch of Highway 101, the old coastal road that winds through Gibsons. Right here, as we reach the traffic lights just past the ferry terminal, we're at a crossroads with a little personal history. Off to the right is Camp Elphinstone, a YMCA camp tucked into the forest by the ocean. I actually spent 2 summers there as a kid, swimming, hiking, and sleeping under the stars. And it still runs today as a popular summer camp for children and families. On the left, just across the way, is Camp Sunrise, run by the Salvation Army, another long-standing retreat that has been welcoming groups for decades. For thousands of kids, these camps are part of their lifelong Sunshine Coast memories. Instead of hurrying north, we're turning left onto the old highway. This slower, more scenic route carries with it a sense of stepping back in time, the way visitors first experienced the Sunshine Coast decades ago, before modern bypasses and wider lanes. From here, the road will guide us gently downhill, wrapping through stands of cedar and fir. with occasional peeks out toward Howe Sound and the islands we just sailed past. And soon enough, it will lead us right into Gibsons, the heart of the coast and the home of Molly's Reach. This area around Langdale has also had its moments on the screen. While Gibson gets most of the fame thanks to the Beachcombers, productions have taken advantage of Howe Sound's dramatic backdrop here too. The rolling forest roads and the ferry terminal settings have appeared in smaller Canadian TV dramas and a few independent films looking for that authentic coastal village feel. Rugged shorelines, mountain views, and of course, that classic ferry arriving and departing throughout the day. As we enter Gibsons, we're driving straight into history. This town became world famous as the setting for the Beachcombers, one of Canada's longest-running television shows. Fans of the series will instantly recognize our next stop, Molly's Reach. Molly's Reach isn't just a filming location, it's a landmark. For decades, it's welcomed visitors with its bright yellow exterior and classic neon sign. Today, it's still a working restaurant and a symbol of Gibson's connection to the Canadian pulp culture. We'll take a quick stop here before continuing our journey up the Sunshine Coast. But for anyone visiting, this is one of those must-see destinations where history, television, and local culture all meet in one place. Well, we just had breakfast at Molly's Reach here in Gibsons, BC. Now we're going to try to make the ferry. So there's Molly's Reach. I had a very, very good sandwich there. It was a BLT breakfast sandwich with egg on it. Now we're heading back to the car and we're going to do the drive to Earls Cove, I believe it is, and see if we can make the 10:30 ferry. And I'll set it up in my GPS or on Google and see how long it's going to take, and hopefully we can make it. And then we'll be in Powell River by noon. So, time to do some more driving. As we leave Molly's Reach in Gibsons, the famous yellow-fronted café, made legendary by the long-running TV show The Beachcombers, we continue our journey north along the Sunshine Coast. It feels like driving away from a piece of Canadian television history, but also from the heart of Gibsons itself. From here, we're following the route of the original Highway 101. This isn't just any highway. It's part of the road that stretches thousands of kilometers south through Washington, Oregon, and California, hugging the Pacific coast all the way to the Mexican border. On the Sunshine Coast, though, it feels more intimate. Here, Highway 101 passes through forests, seaside neighborhoods, and small coastal towns, giving us a real sense of what daily life is like along this shoreline. As we roll through Gibsons, the community gradually shifts from the historic Lower Gibsons waterfront, with its marinas, fishing boats, and shops, up towards Upper Gibsons, where you'll find more of the everyday amenities, grocery stores, schools, and residential streets. It's a reminder that the Sunshine Coast isn't just a holiday destination. It's home to thousands of people who live and work here year-round. Once we pass through Gibsons proper, the Sunshine Coast Highway begins to open up. The road climbs gently through the stands of second-growth forests, with glimpses of the ocean and islands appearing between the trees. The highway isn't built for speed. Instead, it winds along the contours of the land, slowing us down just enough to appreciate the views. It's part of what makes driving here so different from the mainland. We're officially on the Sunshine Coast Highway now, heading north towards Roberts Creek, Sechelt, and eventually Earls Cove. Each stretch of the road ahead has its own character, its own stories, and its own views waiting to be discovered. As the highway carries us out of Gibsons, the scenery begins to change. The town gradually fades in the rearview mirror, and the forest takes over once again. Towering cedars and firs line the roadway, their branches stretching high overhead, filtering the light into soft, shifting patterns across the pavement. Before long, we approach Roberts Creek, a community known for its artistic spirit and laid-back lifestyle. This small but vibrant area has long attracted painters, sculptors, musicians, and freethinkers, and it shows in the details. From colorful garden signs to handcrafted studio shots tucked in the woods, the heart of Roberts Creek is just off the highway, where the road leads down to the waterfront, the pier, and the famous Roberts Creek Medallia, a massive circular painting created and repainted each year by local residents and visitors. It's a symbol of the creativity and sense of community that defines this part of the coast. Up on the road winds through rolling forests and farmland. Here, the Sunshine Coast reveals its rural side. Open meadows, small farms, and stretches where you feel far from any city. There's a rhythm to the drive, as the highway alternates between gentle curves and straight runs, offering glimpses of ocean through the trees before ducking back into green corridors of forests. A little farther north, we arrive in Sechelt, one of the largest communities on the Sunshine Coast. Unlike Gibsons or Roberts Creek, Sechelt has the feel of a small city, with a bustling main street, shops, cafes, and a waterfront promenade. The town stretches along a narrow isthmus bordered by the waters of Sechelt Inlet on one side and the Strait of Georgia on the other. This unique geography has made Sechelt a hub for boating, kayaking, and fishing, activities that are woven into the daily life of the community. Sechelt also holds cultural importance. It's the home of the Sechelt Nation. Their history on the land stretches back thousands of years, long before settlers and highways arrived, and their traditions are still alive here today. Visitors can explore cultural centers and galleries that highlight the coast's deep indigenous heritage, adding another layer to the story of this place. Driving through Sechelt, you get the sense that this is the Sunshine Coast's beating heart, a balance of history, culture, and modern-day living. And from here, the highway will lead us further north into quieter stretches of road and smaller villages as we continue toward Pender Harbour and eventually Earls Cove. Leaving Sechelt behind, the highway narrows again, and with it comes a sense of quiet. The bustle of the town gives way to stretches of wilderness, ocean views, and pockets of small coastal communities. From here, the Sunshine Coast feels wilder, more remote, and more in tune with nature. Our next area is Half Moon Bay. Not a single town, but a collection of waterfront neighborhoods and winding roads that hug the shoreline. The name comes from the curved shape of the bay itself, where sheltered waters meet rocky headlands. It's a place where kayakers glide along calm inlets and families gather at Smuggler's Cove Marine Park, a popular hiking area tucked into the coastal forest. The highway itself doesn't pass right through Half Moon Bay's village center, but you can sense the community tucked in the trees to our left, just a short detour away. Continuing north, the road twists and turns, often hemmed in by steep rock faces on one side and a glimpse of the water on the other. Every so often, a break in the forest reveals the blue expanse of the Strait of Georgia, with Vancouver Island rising in the distance. It's the kind of scenery that makes this drive feel more like an unfolding journey than simply getting from one point to another. Before long, we begin to enter the Pender Harbour area. Pender Harbour is sometimes called the Venice of the North because of its maze of interconnected bays, coves, and islands. Boating is a way of life here. Marinas line the shorelines, and you'll often see sailboats, fishing vessels, and kayaks weaving through the waterways. Communities like Madeira Park and Garden Bay are small but welcoming, with general stores, cafes, and resorts catering to both local and visitors. For many, Pender Harbour is the true halfway point of the Sunshine Coast, a place where time seems to slow even further. From Pender Harbour, the highway begins its final northern push. Traffic grows lighter, and the landscape feels more remote. Tall stands of cedar and fir rise along the roadside, and the occasional clearing offers glimpses of small lakes and hidden coves. This stretch of Highway 101 has fewer communities and fewer services. But that sense of quiet is part of the magic. It feels like the coast is gradually pulling us deeper into its wilderness. At last, the road bends towards our destination, Earls Cove. Here, the Sunshine Coast Highway reaches its northern terminus at the BC Ferry Terminal. This is where travelers connect to the second ferry crossing, sailing over Jervis Inlet towards Saltery Bay, and the northern section of the coast on the way to Powell River. Arriving at Earls Cove, the highway seems to simply melt into the ferry landing, as if the road itself continues across the water. It's a fitting reminder that on the Sunshine Coast, the journey is always a blend of highway and sea, a unique rhythm that makes this part of British Columbia so memorable. After a bit of a wait, we actually missed the last sailing and had to stick around for the next one. It's finally our turn to board the ferry here at Earls Cove. That's part of the rhythm of travel on the Sunshine Coast. The road doesn't go on forever, and sometimes you have to pause and let the ferry set the pace. The line of cars slowly inches forward, guided by the ferry crew, and soon we're rolling down the ramp and onto the ship's car deck. It's always a neat transition. One moment you're on the highway, the next you're driving straight into the belly of a boat that'll carry you across Jervis Inlet. Once we're parked, we headed upstairs to enjoy the ride. But for now, it's a good feeling to know we're aboard and on our way north again. off the ferry at Saltery Bay, we're back on solid ground and into the northern stretch of the Sunshine Coast Highway. This is Highway 1 at its most remote. Fewer towns, fewer services, but some of the most striking scenery of the whole drive. The road immediately winds through thick forests, with tall stands of cedar and fir creating kind of a green tunnel overhead. Every so often the trees break to reveal glimpses of the ocean, where Jervis Inlet opens into the Strait of Georgia. It's quieter here than the southern part of the coast. Traffic thins out, and it often feels like you've got the road all to yourself. A few kilometers up the highway, we pass by Saltery Bay Provincial Park. This little park is famous for its diving sites, including the Emerald Princess, a bronze mermaid statue placed underwater as an artificial reef. Even if you're not a diver, the park's picnic areas and shorelines are a favorite stop for travelers stretching their legs after the ferry. As we continue north, the road bends inland and out again, skirting bays and weaving between lakes. The highway takes us past Stillwater and Black Point, small communities tucked into the coastline. These are quiet residential areas, but they also carry a strong connection to the region's logging and mill industry. In fact, Powell River's entire identity is tied to the pulp and paper industry that once dominated the town's economy. The closer we get to Powell River, the more the highway begins to widen slightly and straighten out. The dense forest gradually gives way to glimpses of neighborhoods, local businesses, and signs that we're approaching a larger community. For many travelers, this stretch feels like a transition from the solitude of the coast highway back into the bustle of a town. As we roll past the Powell River city limits, we're going to continue right through town toward our real destination on this trip, the historic Powell River town site. This area is more than just a landmark for me. It's a place with family history. My late uncle worked at the mill here pretty well all his life, part of the generation that helped build the community around the pulp and paper industry. For decades, the mill was the heartbeat of Powell River, and even though times have changed, its legacy is woven into nearly every street and building of the town site. Before we explore further, though, we'll make a stop at my aunt's house for the night. A chance to reconnect with family and reflect on what this part of the Sunshine Coast has meant to us personally. The next day, our journey continues north. From here, the Sunshine Coast Highway leads us to its very end. Highway 101 may stretch all the way south to Mexico, but here in British Columbia, its northernmost point is the little community of Lund. The drive from Powell River to Lund is one of the most scenic parts of the coast. The road hugs the shoreline in places, offering views out across the Strait of Georgia to Savory Island and the distant mountains of Vancouver Island. Along the way, you'll see signs for hiking trails, lakes, and small rural communities, each with their own quiet pace of life. And then, at the end of the road, literally, we reach Lund. This tiny village calls itself the end of Highway 101, and if you look carefully, you'll even find a sign marking kilometer 0 of the Pacific Coastal Route. Lund may be small, but it has charm all of its own. A working harbor, a historic hotel, and as a launching point for trip to Desolation Sound. It feels like the edge of something bigger. For us, arriving in Lund marks not just the end of the highway, but the culmination of a journey that began back in New Westminster. 2 ferries, winding forest roads, coastal towns, and family history all coming together on the Sunshine Coast. And that brings us to the end of our journey, from New Westminster, across 2 ferries, up the Sunshine Coast Highway, and all the way to Lund at the very top of Highway 101. It's been a drive filled with incredible scenery, small towns, family history, and a reminder of how unique this part of British Columbia really is. If you enjoyed this trip, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. I'd love to hear your own stories or memories of traveling the Sunshine Coast. And of course, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next adventure. Thanks for riding along with me today. I'll see you on the road or in the next video.